Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming to this talk. Thank you, Sohail, for this awesome introduction. Yes, I do agree. I still find it a very hard time with the keyboard, and the most difficult thing is even to write my own name. So, welcome, everyone. I'm Oussama Hafferssas. I'm staff software engineer at Trainline. And today we'll be talking about this awesome topic regarding backend, front-end, mobile, and hopefully to uncover some invisible settings that we have missed or probably missed at some point. Great. For those who don't know me, I'm a simple person. I have worked on mobile apps for the past 10 years. I'm in love with reading. There's a lot of articles and books. And what I truly love is to put an image or picture on top of any abstract thing that you think of, or especially things that are not mainstream. So this is really something really close to my heart. And last year, by the way, I was not staff engineer, I was senior engineer, but I was attendee for on this conference, and the content from there was helped me a lot. And I said to myself, it's time to give back. So this is the moment, and I'd be happy to share with you lots of facts, opinions, and of course, before going into the facts and opinions, for those who don't know, Trainline is a platform that helps you book trains across the UK and Europe. We have a lot of train careers, 270, which is a lot. And of course, if you don't know about trains, it's not like airplanes. It's very difficult. There's no single place to look for trains across careers. So we are trying to provide that experience to everyone. To make life easier, to book trains and help the planet. And before going, just a disclaimer, there will be lots of opinions in this talk. There will be facts, of course, but what we should keep in mind is all of those that I'll be sharing today is not to convince you and to say, hey, you need to agree on this, or it's not the goal. This talk aims instead to make you think about certain things that usually are not that visible in our perspective. So this is, I would say, the mindset that we need to have for this talk. And the first thing I would like to think about is CTOs. Like, how many CTOs have you ever crossed in your career that come from mobile engineering world? Just think about it. Is it 10? Is it 20? Is it 1? Is it none? What about VPs, like Vice President of Engineering? Have you come across lots of them from having mobile background or front-end background? I see lots of heads doing like this, okay? What about heads of engineering? What about directors of engineering? Yeah. What about staff engineers? Yes, there is one there. No. So there is a general observation in the software community that for StaffPlus roles or leadership roles in the tech community, it's a little bit hard for people coming from front-end background, especially mobile background, to access those kind of roles. And if you think about it, the very first smartphone that we know of, modern smartphones, I would say iPhone, it dates from 2007 to 2024. It's 17 years. 17 years for an engineer, that's a hell of a career. You should see a load of CTOs coming from mobile world, but it's not the case. Just think about it. So this general observation, this is my observation. Also, these people I know of that they have this kind of observations, and it came from the voices I have heard in the meetups, in the people I've worked with in the mobile community. And I would like to echo those voices. But I will try to be fair, of course, and I would like to echo both voices. Voices from people from mobile background and people from other backgrounds, of course. But to make it fun, of course, I will do that with a little bit of exaggeration. Otherwise, it won't be funny. So let's start with one voice. So one may come and say, hey, that mobile engineering thing is just about putting colors on buttons. Okay. Yeah, it's not that complicated. Okay, an app like this, of course, is just white space, and then you put a text field, then you show list, you call the web, the network, you make a network call. It's the backend who does all the work and get all the careers and find the things for you and just give you the data, and you are just there. The app is a dummy app that just shows the data. That's it. Okay, that's one voice. Let's go to the other side of the story. Maybe one mobile engineer would come and say, oh God, definitely I'm tired of this, explaining myself, explaining our problems to people who think that our app is just a game or toy. And I won't spend any time more communicating about what's happening. I guess I take it, or do something else. That's also another voice. We keep the fun, we do ping pong. So the other engineers would come and say, by the way, what about mobile engineering community? It is like sect people, like they just go their conferences, they talk about their topics, they are so focused on their mobile things that you don't know about them. Sometimes it's true. Not that. And of course, there are definitely two sects. There's not only one. There's the Android folks and the iOS folks, and they don't talk to each other and all of that. But okay, what about other mobile engineers' voice? Also, this is something I have heard, probably I said also, is people tend to feel a lack of consideration when taking like technical decisions in the level of the organization. So basically said, hey, they took this decision on going with this kind of architecture, backend architecture, or so what, but they didn't think about the mobile front end, and we don't know, it's definitely going to sideways. So this is also something, and especially the budget. You see mobile engineer coming, hey, and they say, each time we ask for a platform, we ask for a tool that can make our lives easier, the leadership says, hey, we don't have a budget, but the backend, they ask for a platform that costs 20 million and they just get it. And why? We are also doing engineering. Okay. Something to resonate. If you go to the other side also, so other engineers would say, hey, mobile engineers lack understanding of system design. They don't think about all the load balancing that we should do, and the circuit breaker, and all of those very complex things at scale that we should do. I don't like talking to them, to be honest. It's a waste of time. The last one, for mobile engineers, would say, of course, our company has software architects, but they definitely are backend architects. They don't think about the mobile apps architecture. And I see the definition of architect, like for like real buildings, you have an architect that do the architecture for the whole building. It's not about the basement, and they forgot about the floors. I keep the floors for other people to do. It's not realistic. Also, this is something that's echoed. Try and go to the next slide. Yes. So it's definitely, there is, with exaggeration, there is like two polarities here, and there is sometimes miscommunication. There is lots of, I would say, misconception, and there is also bias there. But there is some truth to all of these, I would say, all of these voices. So what I would like to do is to talk about those voices and highlight the fact that for mobile engineers, even if they have lots of voices to talk about this, they are still, in terms of numbers, smaller community than the full stack and web engineers and the backend and the infrastructure engineering and the network engineers. All of those, of course, they outnumber the mobile software and community, which ends up to be a little small island at some point, creating an invisible ceiling between those kind of engineers focusing on mobile sometimes even the web front end, and also and the other, I would say, the wider tech community, which creates this island and also creates the ceiling for them. And it's definitely even tighter for the mobile community. So just by exposing this, I want to let you think about it. And I will be exposing lots of, I would say, other points to think about. And the first one is the thing that we mentioned before about the fact that leadership and CTOs and majority of them don't come from the front end side of things. So short story, a timeline of tech basically. I know it can be boring, but please, I promise you, you will find something interesting to catch on. But yeah, I know history sometimes is boring. So if we go a little bit back to the 90s, so the 90s there was the internet, first days of internet, the rise of the dot-com then bubble. So all these companies started to have in their front-end websites as basically as front pages for their businesses. And then valuations of those tech company focusing on the front-end side did lost a bit, which was the dot-com bust at that time. And then Web 2.0 came, which was basically just the modern web apps that we think of with the backend and front-end and web apps doing lots of things. Also user-generated content with social networks and all of that. So web took off again. And then, of course, with lots of data, we came to the cloud thing. And now we are in the AI era with large models, whether it's in actions, large language models or large action models. But definitely AI stands for artificial intelligence and not Apple intelligence. So this is basically how the web was, I would say, so for the past years was the life cycle of the web, basically. What about mobile? So for mobile, it starts with the hardware back in the 80s with the first Motorola, and then to the Nokia with all the awesome Nokia phones that I truly miss, and then the Blackberries, which they were the very first ones to have a couple of software doing things inside of those phones. And after that, we got our new smartphones that we know really and use right now with all the Android and iOS thing. Two modern smartphones right now. So in a nutshell, this is like how the mobile, I would say, lifecycle look. We can try to combine these to see things differently or to see even clearer in terms of software. So now we need to focus on software. The software empowering web, it starts with HTML and still basically the same. In the website, we built on top of HTML, frameworks, and then the network, the backend, all of that. But it was basically building on top of each other. And there was the need that basically moved forward all the web community together. And there was no company controlling that, I would say, narrative. Lots of companies contributed, lots of open source thing, but in terms of software engineering, there was like this, I would say, incremental move from the 90s to now, basically. But for mobile engineering, the real software, mobile software engineering that we truly know right now, it starts only from first days of iPhone and Android, which is 2007 to now, which is 14 years ago. Which brings me to the point that in terms of, because we are software engineers, they are careers, of course. So in terms of timeline, you can have an IC, like an engineer coming from the 90 to 2000, and then moving forward with their careers to the higher leadership roles, or even sometimes getting really accelerated by launching their own startups or creating their own startup. But all of those will become tech leaders, and the only thing they saw was the web, the backend, all of that nice stuff. Probably they were having like their own servers building by their own, and then now we are in the cloud, of course. But this is like the mindset of those people. What about mobile engineers? Like why we don't have this kind of, I would say, quick, I would say, improvement in careers or development in career where we see like mobile engineers go into those roles. What we truly see right now is like more like backend engineers find it a little bit, I would say, easier to go the career path. But for mobile engineers, like, and this is a real general observation in the community, is that it's flattened after the years, and it's very hard to access those type of positions. One thing I should mention here, and in my opinion, this is something that I have observed. It's something called like selects like, which basically, because CTOs come in from, I would say, the web world, they, at some point when selecting in new companies and new startups, their leadership, their tech leadership, they really bring people more from back-end engineering. That's the thing, even web engineering. But that's the thing, because we have always something called like selects like, which is basically we try to bring people that looks like us, have the same mindset, and then it will be easier for us to just run that company. So this is one thing that helps in that story. And of course, it's not the only thing. But this is, I would say, in a nutshell, some of the things that I think of, and this is my opinion, and I really would like you to think about it. I saw, and I think that it helps creating that ceiling for mobile software engineers. The second thing is the UI stuff. So if you don't know about the complexity of mobile, I can expose some of the things for you. And of course, I know you're tired, but it can be very, very illuminating if you know about these stuff, because you are probably staff engineers, you are senior engineers, you will work with people from those backgrounds, and it's very, very helpful if you know about what's their problems, where the complexity lies in, so you can work better with them, and which will be a win for you and for them. So I will give you just one simple example. So this example is truly a true example about modern Android apps. So if you have a phone with 6 gigabytes of RAM, you think the app that has this 6 gigabytes RAM? Of course not. The app will only have 200 megabytes. Every app will have only 200 megabytes. This is why you can have 20 apps on your phone running in parallel. And of course, for engineers, they need to have all those screens when the user navigates running in those 200 megabytes. And so the system can at some point kill those screens in the background for the user. So a software engineer working in mobile world will always think about this, that, hey, your basically software will be cut off at some point and you don't control that point. There is also, of course, data, because we need to save data, otherwise the system will erase everything. So we do use DB, which is in lots of cases SQL, and in some cases, in big apps, you can have like even 200 tables in a SQL database in the app, which is a lot, and you need to do an ORM on top of that, a lot of things. And sometimes you can have multiple databases, and you should remember all of this should run in the 200 megabytes that we need to run the app on. And because it won't be fun if we don't add async, because we don't want to block the UI for the user, so we need to do that thread safety, ping pong between threads, and make things work smoothly for the user. And of course, all of this multiplied by the number of features or screens that you have in the app. And because it's no fun without third-party dependency, of course, we have like all those SDKs that are external code that it's shipped with the app and can do whatever it likes. So basically, you need to do all of those things and ship them in one file. In iPhone it's APA, Android's APK, and you do all of that with one code base. We can do like in the backend, you have the microservices, it's different repos, and you get to build your work on something on a repo in an independent way. No, it's one code base. We can't build things from different sources. An example of that, our app, the Android app at Trainline, is more than 4 million lines of code. So you can imagine that complexity that adds up with build time, CI, developer experience, all of that, how to handle all of these. An example of our CI, like we have the trigger, like CI triggered in each commit, and we run unit tests. Unit tests, if we do no optimization, they will take 90 minutes, like an hour and a half, basically, to run all the unit tests on CI, which is a lot. So we introduced something called the cache, the build cache, basically, and we put it on AWS, just trying to optimize that time for developers. And this is the dashboard from the S3 consumption, like the data transfer. And you can see, like, sometimes it's up to 400 gigabytes per day of data transfer just for that build cache from the CI in S3, which is a lot. And this is a true example. I could have mentioned lots of examples about complexity. This is like one small one with a real scale from our app. But it definitely, there is complexity in the mobile apps world. It's okay? It's a lot to handle. Yeah, of course. We just take some water. We still have 4 minutes to go. I promise you what's coming will be lightweight. So the other point is about mobile engineering is like behaving like sect and not basically working with other engineers or the wider tech community. Actually, there is some kind of trueness in this, and it was highlighted in this book, French book, called L'évangélisme technologique, or Technological Evangelism. It's a really nice book. It talked about the history of Google and Apple and how the Silicon Valley and how they managed to do developer relationship to push their technologies. So the history, especially for Android and iOS, is the fact that both Apple and Google we were using the community to push the idea of, hey, we are the new thing that will do good for the world. We are not the PC thing. We are not Microsoft trying to control everything. I have nothing to do against Microsoft. They do good work. But yeah, at that time, they were like focusing and pushing these ideas. And they created and invested a lot to get the communities around this kind of ideas. And after all of these years, those, I would say, community feelings developed to be strong opinions held in a strong way. Sometimes it doesn't help, and I'm from the mobile community. I think of that. Sometimes it doesn't help, and sometimes it helps because we will always find like a supportive community for whatever problem that you have. But this is something that happened in that world. About resource allocation, there is also bias about that, but in my opinion, that's because there is a bias regarding the size. What I try to think of front end or apps is like apps are ice cubes. You see a little bit of it, but there is lots floats underwater, whereas the backend is basically ice cubes with all those microservices all over the world and running. So of course, there is complexity when handling ice cubes at that scale, and also there is complexity handling that iceberg at that scale. So I'm not saying that there's no complexity, but there is definitely, but it's different types. And of course, size matters because that perception of size, that the backend is bigger with all those services, it means that budget also reflects that bias, of course. And if I go to the lack of consideration thing of decision making, I would say it's more about communication. For the mobile engineers, I would also always push to communicate instead of making noise and about the problems or the perceptions. Sometimes it's true, but the constructive way of doing it is try to explain to people, go outside the island, explain to people the problems, the scale of the problems, all of that. It will definitely help. And I really invite you to think about it and try to push forward as you are leaders in tech, basically, whether you are staff or senior engineers or even working in engineering management. We try to basically push also people from other communities and everyone in all the communities to get to move on in better places with their tech careers, hopefully. This is what I think. I don't know, what do you think? Thank you so much.